Hey guys, good morning. Very late start. I think it's the latest start I've ever had to a video, but it's been a crazy morning. So I've not only just the general run of the day, we had a slight storm last night, nothing big, but I think it was unplanned. There was nothing in the forecast about it, so the commute was pretty bad. Had a lot of staff that was late, had a lot of customers that can't come into some of our businesses. And then on top of that, I've got two family members in the hospital, one for bad reasons, but hopefully you'll be all right. The other for good reasons. My cousin just gave birth. This is her first. She's like a sister to me. I grew up pretty much in the same house with her. And so it's like my older sister having a baby. So this is pretty good. This is pretty exciting. I'm going to flip the camera, but today's pretty uneventful. Usually you see the beautiful peak of Mount Olympus. I don't know if you can see it kind of poking through there in the clouds. But it looks like we still got a ton of cloud cover over here. But let's get into it. Let's get into the stories. And then I'll have a pretty big announcement here at the end of it. So the first story is the Dow is down. So the Dow is down about 300 points. The NASDAQ is shedding 1%. Pretty much everything's coming off of the Microsoft earnings, which is very interesting. So let's talk about that. So Microsoft actually beat expectations. So they were estimated at $229 a share. They came in at $232 a share. So earnings for the fourth quarter were fantastic. There was definitely growth. However, it's the forecast that's the problem. So Microsoft is foreseeing a slowdown in revenue and sales. This isn't too surprising. I mean, Microsoft had a huge boost in PC sales because of COVID. And so whether that's domestically or internationally, people were buying PCs more because they were working from home. That seems to be fading. I think Microsoft is wise in reading the writing on the wall and preempting this, so there isn't further disappointment later. They're simply saying that, look, we're not going to have the earnings we did in the last year and a half. Everything's kind of returning to normal. You don't need a computer every day. A good PC will last you a while. Secondary markets exist. People build their own, so it's not going to be as big as it used to be. But they're investing heavily in a lot of AI. ChatGPT is being one of them. So we'll see where that leads to. But I think it's going to be a few quarters to a few years until that's going to actually change the navigation of the company. But that's a big deal. So the market is reacting very heavily to that. And there's a lot of downturn in the economy, but not in the way you would think. We'll get to this in a second. Gold is slightly down. I noticed that I didn't check the spot price or the range too much, but I saw it was slightly down. It's still holding at that $19.30 per ounce dollar amount. So it's still very high. Gold is still very high and very stable, but it is not elevating or escalating right now, so that's why I didn't bother reporting on it. I'm still sticking to my prediction, though. I think in February something is going to happen, so keep an eye out for that. But I still think the economy isn't as bad as people are saying. So let's get to the other losses. So Boeing is down. Boeing is down substantially. They had a loss of $663 million in the last quarter. That's big. However, here's the secret sauce. Their production and orders are up. So they're getting more demand for their jets than ever before. And this is kind of what I'm hinting at in the fact that there's revenue issues and there are sectors of the economy that are shrinking, namely tech, but there's sectors of the economy that are absolutely booming. So Boeing is going to raise its production from 31 jets per month to 50. So that's like an increase of about 40%. That is massive. That is huge in a very short period of time. And this is not taking into account that China is reopening and global travel is coming back. The war is seeming to be just a constant that people are going to be dealing with. People are going to be traveling to Europe. COVID's not really an issue like it used to be. So like we talked about in December jobs reports, hospitality and leisure is up. Jobs in those industries are up. Boeing is going to be building more and more jets than ever before. So where does the loss occur? Well, the loss is mainly because of supply chain issues that are still there and also labor. I think supply chain will catch up. I don't think labor will. This is going to be a constant, I think, for the next 10 years, is labor is going to be hard to come by until either people start automating more or the workforce increases, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think labor is going to be a drag on the economy for many, many years to come. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think that's overall positive news. I think it's good for the worker. I think that growth that's steady and not cancerous is always good. And so I think we're going to see growth in a lot of these sectors, but it's not going to be as cancerous or bubbly as we've seen in the last couple of years with COVID and lockdowns and everything else. So Amazon has been downgraded by Bank of America. That's another tech company that's been downgraded, but they're still maintaining a buy rating. It's just their target price has been reduced. Furthermore, we talked about this yesterday in the last couple of days, mortgages are up. So mortgages are up 7% in just this last week. So last week alone, mortgages were up 7% just because we are dealing with the lowest interest rates in the since September. So again, people are buying, people are spending money, just not in the ways that they did in the last 2 years. Home prices are still going to grow. Home prices are still going to continue. So I think these are all positive signs. That's pretty much all the stories I wanted to cover today, except for one big one. So this is the one I wanted to get to. So all in all, this channel is about Utah business and Salt Lake City business and developing local culture. It's great if you guys are outside the state of Utah listening. Fantastic. I welcome it. But I really do focus on Utah. And I want to talk about a local election that's coming up here in Salt Lake City for mayor. So last night I was at a political fundraiser for former mayor Rocky Anderson. So Rocky Anderson was kind of a legend around here because what probably Bloomberg or Giuliani was to New York, whatever your opinions are, Rocky was for Salt Lake. So he's one of those mayors that really made an impact, really made a name. He was here during the Olympics. He was incredibly progressive in all the right ways. He was here during the 9/11. I know that's a New York issue, but I'm simply stating that during the time of terror, he was our mayor, so he had to deal with his own emergencies. He was instrumental, I shouldn't say instrumental, but he was very oppositional to the Bush administration's war in Iraq. He was one of the few mayors in the country protesting this when it was a very unpopular opinion. I was in junior high and early high school, I think, during the Iraq War. So I was in junior high in 2001 and 9/11, and I think I was in I think I already entered high school in 9th grade in 2002 when the Iraq War started. So it was a movement like no one ever saw. If you spoke out against the war in Iraq, you were considered unpatriotic. You were considered a traitor. It was a McCarthy time. I don't make much of my politics known, but I've never been a fan of George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, or that whole neocon administration. If I had to give you my politics, I would say I'm probably more traditional liberal with a heavy dose of libertarianism. Just try to create a social safety net, stay out of people's lives. I'm very open about those things. And nobody was talking about the war in Iraq. And it was so refreshing to have a mayor in a red state, deep red state, protesting it, back when even Democrats were voting for the war. So it was a big movement. It was incredibly inspiring. He actually debated that idiot Sean Hannity. Screw Sean Hannity. The man's a potato head. Literally, his head looks like a potato. But he debated Sean Hannity live on stage. It was televised all over Utah against his protest in Iraq. And 20 years later, he was absolutely right. And we see that now. And what a waste that entire war was. We spent, I'm not talking about Iraq, but just Afghanistan, $3 trillion, not to make Afghanistan a mecca. Afghanistan isn't this bastion of freedom or development. We paid $3 trillion to blow holes in the ground. So that entire war, that entire administration, it was a complete waste of our tax money. It was the loss of thousands and thousands of lives on all sides, all for nothing. And Rocky had the courage to speak up about it when he had no skin in the game, right? He was a local city mayor. This would only cost him votes because he can't make a change on national foreign policy. But in a red state, he decided that it was his moral duty to speak up. In that entire time, he did not raise property taxes at all. In that entire time, we had more homeless shelters. We had more beds for the homeless. We had more affordable housing. The city was growing and developing. There were stories in the news, in the LA Times, the New York Times, the Washington Post, that Utah had solved homelessness because we literally did, thanks to Rocky Anderson. And now we have this mayor, Mendenhall, who's absolutely atrocious. The homeless population is growing by the day. Just this winter alone, we've had 6 deaths because of the weather in the homeless population. And there is no plan for that. There is no plan for affordable housing. There is no plan for anything that she's done. She just simply makes a ruling, a proclamation, something she can post on social media, and nothing happens. So I was at Rocky Anderson's event. I fully support him. I'm going to be doing a lot of promotion for him. This isn't a political channel, but I think that politics affects business greatly. So you will see me doing a lot of promotion for Rocky. I think he's fantastic. He did amazing work 20 years ago, and I think he's capable of doing amazing work again. At his age, he doesn't need to do this. He can fully live a nice, quiet life, but he is doing this in order to improve Salt Lake, improve Utah, and to help be a foundation for the next administration that comes after him to follow his model and not Mendenhall's model. I urge you, if you're in Utah, look at Rocky Anderson's campaign. He has been good before, and I feel he can be great again. So look at his campaign, look at the issues, look at what he's running, and he can really make a change. So I'm going to get a little bit political here and there for the next few weeks, next few months, probably next year or so, but I think it's incredibly important to the state of Utah. That's pretty much it. I got to get going. I got emergencies all over. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I hope you set amazing goals. I hope you meet those goals, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning, hopefully earlier. Thanks.